Alone at midnight, a stranger's bone-chilling secret in the airport parking lot. The night was thick and heavy over the airport parking lot, wrapping around the vehicles like a predator stalking its prey. A flickering streetlight cast eerie shadows, turning the mundane asphalt into a warped panorama of fear and suspense. An unsettling silence lingered, punctuated only by the distant rumble of planes and the occasional rustle of leaves, as if nature itself was trying to echo the ominous vibe in the air. Katie, clutching her suitcase, felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't just the cold, there was something else, something lurking just out of sight. Under the dim glow, she spotted an old, rusty van parked a few spots over. Its windows were clouded and grimy, making it impossible to see inside. Yet, the way it stood there, like a grim sentinel watching her every move, sent her heart racing. She shook her head, trying to dismiss her racing thoughts. But why was it there, all alone in this deserted lot? The next car was a mile away, and its presence gnawed at her. Just as she reached for her phone, the hairs on her neck prickled. A low creaking noise echoed around her, forcing her to freeze. Was it the van? Or something beyond that? Then came a flash of movement, a figure darting past her periphery, just outside the light's reach. It was fleeting. A person? Or was it just her imagination playing tricks on her tired mind? She thought about calling someone, about running to the safety of the terminal, but her feet felt glued to the ground. The air grew thicker, almost stifling, her breath becoming a tight knot in her throat. Was she really alone out here? Or was someone else watching? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a deep breath, Katie turned back to the van, suddenly desperate to see inside. Was there someone in there? The tension coiling around her tightened as she took one cautious step forward. The sound of her heart pounding matched the echoing silence. She couldn't shake the feeling that every inch she advanced drew her closer to an unknown horror. The van's side door creaked ominously as a shadow shifted the fabric of the air, and in that moment, the silence shattered. The van door swung wide open, and a figure leaned out, silhouetted against the dim light. Katie's breath hitched, her sight narrowing on the mysterious stranger. The world around her blurred. What did they want? Was this the stranger's secret? With a sudden impulse, she leaned in closer, feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. To uncover the truth meant stepping deeper into the dark, into the heart of the mystery waiting just beyond the light. The figure leaned further out of the van, its features still obscured by the shadows. Katie's heart hammered in her chest, the soft thud echoing in her ears, drowning out the distant sounds of the airport. She squinted, trying to make out who or what was before her. "Can I help you?" The stranger rasped, their voice like gravel. It sent a chill down her spine. I was just," Katie stuttered, struggling to find her words. Should she run? Or stay and confront whatever mystery unfolded before her? Something within her stirred, urging her to uncover the truth, despite the fear pulsing in her veins. "Come closer," the stranger beckoned, partly stepping out of the dark. As they shifted, the light caught a fleeting glimpse of their face, a gaunt visage, sunken cheeks, and eyes that seemed to bore into her soul. She gasped, stepping back instinctively. It was as if they were a ghost, haunting the parking lot, and she was the unsuspecting victim. "Please, don't run," they added, desperation lacing their voice. "I need to talk to you." It was a strange combination of urgency and fear in their tone. A small flicker of sympathy ignited within her, fading quickly as the danger of the unknown washed back over her. Who was this person? Why? "Who are you?" Katie demanded, her voice shaky but defiant. "You don't understand," they urged, glancing nervously toward the darker edges of the parking lot. There's someone looking for you. You have to trust me. Katie's breath hitched. A cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Someone was looking for her? Panic gripped her as her thoughts raced. Did she even know if she could trust this figure? But the way they spoke, the raw fear in their eyes, it felt real. Listen, they continued, taking another step out, the van's interior now chokingly dark behind them. I can help you, but we need to leave now. A noise suddenly pierced the air, tires screeching, a door slamming somewhere nearby. Katie flinched, her instincts screaming for her to run back to the terminal. Now! The stranger urged, the urgency reaching a breaking point. They're coming. In that moment, time seemed to freeze. Every option raced through her mind. She could flee, leave the stranger to whatever danger they were facing. But if she turned her back, would she be sealing her fate by walking straight into the path of whoever the one they claimed was searching for her? Please. The stranger's voice rose, desperation clawing at the edges. I swear I'm trying to help you. The screeching noise faded, but Katie's heart was still pounding, drowning out rational thought. With a quick glance at the terminal, the glimmer of safety flickering just far enough away, she took a deep breath and stepped toward the van. Okay, she said, her voice trembling. What do you want me to do? Without another word, the stranger gestured her into the darkness of the van. As she stepped inside, her pulse quickened. The air was stale, the faint smell of something metallic, something unsettling, drifting around her. The van's door slammed shut behind her, echoing loudly in the night like a death knell, sealing her fate with that one action. With the weight of the world pressing down on her, Katie couldn't shake the feeling they had just opened a door that led into darkness. What have I gotten into? She thought, the question hanging in the air as the stranger turned to her, eyes wide with urgency. But before they could speak, another shadow flickered past the van's windows. Tension coiled in her gut as fear clawed at her heart once more. She sensed the unknown danger creeping closer, closing in. Who's behind us? Katie whispered, panic rising in her voice. The stranger stiffened. You shouldn't have come here. The words hung heavy in the cramped space, a warning against the chilling prospect that whatever awaited them outside was only a heartbeat away. What had she stepped into? The truth lurked, waiting just on the other side. The darkness was hungry, and it wanted her. Katie's pulse raced with dread as the world outside the van began to swirl in whispers. In that moment of uncertainty, she could feel the edges of a greater danger wrapping around her like a noose tightening with every breath. Could she escape? Would she ever understand what was happening? As the unsettling shadows danced around them, Katie braced herself for the answer that loomed just out of reach. The air in the van felt electric. Katie's heart raced, beating against her ribcage like a caged bird yearning for freedom. The stranger's shadow loomed over her, their silhouette sharp against the sparse light filtering in through the grimy windows. She could feel her throat growing tight, the metallic scent around her intensifying as if it were somehow alive, wrapping around her like a serpent. Listen to me, the stranger said, their voice lower now, almost a whisper. I'm not your enemy. I'm trying to protect you. But we need to move, and fast. Protect me? Katie echoed, incredulous. From what? Or who? She glanced back at the tinted windows, her mind swirling with possible threats lurking just outside. The shadows were bold now, shifting with intent, as if they had eyes of their own. There's no time to explain everything, they insisted, urgency giving their voice an edge. Just, please trust me. We'll talk as we drive. But we have to go. Katie hesitated. The weight of the moment hung heavy, and running back to the airport felt like tempting fate. Yet stepping further into the abyss of the unknown terrified her. If this is a trap, she murmured, shaking her head. It's not, the stranger replied, an air of desperation in their words. You have to believe me. You're in real danger, Katie. I promise to explain everything, but only if you come with me. The sensation of dread tightened around her chest, but something else stirred, a flicker of hope. What if this person really could help her? After everything that had just happened, she was tired of living in uncertainty. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "What's the plan?" The stranger turned toward the front of the van, reaching for keys that dangled on a lanyard. "We leave now. I'll drive. You just need to stay low and quiet." Katie nodded, swallowing hard. As the engine roared to life, it startled her as much as the approaching darkness that felt ominously close. The world outside seemed to blur into a riot of colors and shapes, but as they pulled away, the shadows seemed to stretch toward the van, pursuing them as if reluctant to let go. "Where are we going?" she asked, peering out the small window as the fluorescent lights of the airport faded into the night. "We'll find a safe place," the stranger replied, glancing in the rearview mirror, a glint of fear flickering in their eyes. "The important thing right now is to get away from here." They sped through the quiet streets surrounding the airport, the headlights cutting through the dimness like blades. The stranger focused on the road, tension radiating from them in heavy waves. Katie tried to calm her rising dread, her thoughts spiraling back to what she had left behind, the life she knew, the safety of routine. "Who's after me?" she finally asked, her voice trembling against the backdrop of the van's engine. "Do you even know?" "They're not far behind," the stranger said, jaw tight. "And they won't stop until they find you. It's complicated, but you must understand, there are people who want something from you." "Want something from me?" The question dripped with confusion. What could I possibly have that they want? A shadow flitted in her peripheral vision, causing her pulse to spike. She turned suddenly, eyes glued to the windshield, but nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Just a startling emptiness, punctuated by flickering streetlights. Yet, an instinct told her it wasn't safe, and fear coiled tighter around her heart. "I can't explain right now. You just need to trust me," came the stranger's urgent response again. Katie glared at them, frustration flaring. "I don't even know who you are." Just then, a car burst into view behind them, its headlights bright and relentless. Panic surged within her. "They're coming." "Who is that?" The stranger clenched the wheel, leaning hard on the gas. "Hold on." They swerved onto a dimly lit side road, the van screeching as they narrowly avoided the tightening grip of the pursuer. The chase quickened, and Katie felt her breath hitch in her throat. Was she about to plunge into something deeper than her understanding? Something that could either consume her or finally offer the truth. But as they hurtled through the ominous night, one haunting question remained. Could she truly trust the person she had connected with in the shadows? The darkness raced behind them, and Katie was left wondering just how far it would go to draw her back into its depths. The headlights behind them sliced through the night like a knife. Katie's heart thundered, each pulse a desperate warning. She gripped the edge of the seat, her nails digging into the upholstery. "Faster!" she shouted, barely able to hear her own voice over the roar of the engine. The stranger's knuckles went white as they pressed down harder on the gas. "I'm trying." Panic tinged their voice, the words bursting out with urgency. "We need to put as much distance as we can between us and them." Katie's eyes darted back to the rearview mirror. The pursuing car was gaining on them, its dark shape looming larger, its headlights like angry eyes. A surge of fear clamped down tightly around her chest, tightening like a vice. What did they want? "Are they armed?" she asked, that dark pit of dread swirling stronger within her. The thought of facing violence was a nightmare she couldn't bear. "Maybe." The stranger's voice cracked. "But right now, we have to focus on getting away, not on how deadly they could be." They sped down the winding road, trees rushing past like blurry phantoms. Katie felt the air grow cooler and more oppressive, as if the encroaching darkness was alive, seeking to smother her in its embrace. "What do they want from me?" she pressed, her voice shaking. "You can't just leave me in the dark like this." "I swear, I'll explain everything." The stranger's eyes flicked back to her briefly, reflecting the fear that mirrored her own. "Just hold on." With a sudden sharp turn, the stranger veered the van off the main road, skidding onto a dirt path that disappeared into the thick woods. The trees closed in around them, the canopy overhead casting deep shadows that swallowed the fading light. The sound of their tires crunching on gravel was a stark contrast to the distant hum of the pursuing vehicle, which now felt eerily far away. Katie let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, but relief was short-lived. Something about the woods felt wrong, like an inescapable trap. "Are we safe here?" she asked, glancing nervously at the dark shapes looming around them. "For now," the stranger said, slowing the van. They pulled into a small clearing, the moonlight spilling through the branches, casting a ghostly glow. Katie wanted to feel safe, but the tension between them was palpable. "You keep saying you'll explain. What's stopping you?" "I deserve to know." The stranger hesitated, their eyes flickering with internal conflict. Finally, they took a deep breath. "Fine. First, you have to know that you're not just some random person. You're important more than you realize." Katie frowned. "Important? Why?" "The people chasing you, they're not just ordinary criminals. They know something about you, about your past. Something that could change everything. But I don't have a past worth anything." She shot back, frustration boiling over. "Wrong." The stranger's voice dropped to a whisper. "You have a lineage, Katie. One that connects you to a world you've been kept away from, one that people would kill to control." The gravity of their words crashed into her like a wave, leaving her breathless. "What? You expect me to believe that?" Before the stranger could respond, the headlights of the pursuing car fractured the peace, illuminating the edge of the woods. Panic surged again. "They found us!" Katie cried, frantically looking around for an escape. "Stay down," the stranger ordered, throwing the van into reverse, preparing to escape yet again. As they backed out, the engine sputtered, a choking sound breaking the silence. "No, no, no!" Katie shrieked. The car didn't budge. The realization hit her hard. They were trapped. The shadows crept closer to the van, forming a wall of impending doom. Could this really be the moment everything changed for her, the moment she discovered the truth? The last glimmer of light in the distance faded, swallowed by the night. As darkness descended, she gripped her seat once more, heart pounding furiously, desperation and fear engulfing her. What she didn't know was the choice she would soon have to make: face the unknown or plunge deeper into the shadows that sought to claim her. "Hold tight," the stranger murmured, their focus locked forward. "We're not done yet." But was escape even possible now? The engine sputtered and died, echoing in the silence as the headlights of the pursuing car crept closer, sharp and accusing. Katie felt her stomach drop. Panic clawed at her throat. "What do we do?" she gasped, her voice high and strained. The stranger's fingers danced over the steering wheel, as if trying to summon life back into the van. "Get out." The urgency in their voice cut deep. "Now." "What? Are you crazy?" Katie snapped, her heart racing. "We can't just sit here." "That car is looking for you," the stranger insisted, their eyes wide with fear. "They won't stop until they find you. We have to move, right now." Before she could argue, the approaching headlights sliced the darkness, illuminating the trees with an ominous glow. She could see the outline of the other vehicle starting to pull into the clearing. Her breaths came quick and shallow as she swung open the van door, dread flooding through her. "Where do we go?" she shouted, taking a tentative step into the cold night air. The forest stretched ahead, a labyrinth of darkness. "Down the path," the stranger urged, already bolting into the woods. A fierce wind whipped through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and the suffocating weight of fear. Katie followed, adrenaline spiking as she darted after the stranger. She could hear the crunching of leaves behind them, not just from their movements but from something else, something far more sinister. "Do you really think they're following us?" "Just keep running," was their only reply. The narrow path twisted and turned, branches snagging at her clothes, threatening to slow her down. Katie's heart raced louder than the pounding of her feet on the ground. The echo of footsteps behind them thrummed like a drumbeat of horror, each sound intensifying her desperation. But why? What did they want with her? She could feel the shadows reaching out from the trees, grasping for her as she stumbled forward. Where was this world the stranger had mentioned? What did she have entangled in her veins that made her so important? The stranger paused suddenly, throwing themselves against a massive oak tree, pulling Katie up against them. "Listen," they whispered, their breath warm against her ear. "We need to hide. They can't find us." Katie could hear muttering in the distance, the unmistakable voices of men intent on finding them. The urgency in those voices made her skin crawl. "If they come this way," she started, but the strangers shook their head. "It won't matter. We won't let them take us." The sentiment struck a nerve, igniting a flicker of defiance within her. What if they already know? What if we're sure? The stranger pressed a finger to their lips, their gaze fixed and unyielding. In that moment, she felt a spark of trust. For now, they were linked in their shared terror. She watched their jaw clench, realization washing over their face. "We have to move again. If they seem to have a lead, we have to head toward the river. It's our best escape." Katie's mind raced. The river? It means crossing out in the open. Just then, a flash of light tore through the trees. A flashlight beam danced furiously, scouting the ground. The men were closer. The stranger grabbed her hand, their grip firm and steady, an anchor in the chaos unfolding around them. "There's no time to think, Katie. Trust me." She looked into their eyes, searching, but found only resolve. With breaths held tight, they rushed down the slope, the trees thinning ahead. The dark, winding river loomed into view, seductive and deadly. They could hear the tumultuous splash of water, but now the haunting calls of the men behind them echoed eerily louder. Katie's heart hammered in her chest. Would they make it? Would she discover why she mattered? Just as the water's edge came into sight, they hesitated, caught between a leap into the unknown and the predators trailing behind them. "Ready?" The stranger murmured, their eyes locked onto hers, searching for an answer that lay between them. In that moment of weightlessness, the air heavy with anticipation and fear, Katie realized she was about to leap into more than just a river. She was leaping into the depths of her own destiny. But what awaited them on the other side? The water roared beneath them, a dark promise of danger mixed with salvation. The stranger's grip faltered for a brief moment, hesitation flickering in their eyes. The beam of the flashlight danced through the trees, and Katie felt the weight of urgency press against her chest. Seconds felt like hours. "Go." The command left the stranger's lips like a thunderbolt, with a spirit fueled by fear and a shattering need to survive. Katie lunged forward, propelled by adrenaline. The icy water swallowed them whole, yanking at her limbs and biting at her skin. She gasped as she plunged beneath the surface, a rush of cold water chasing away the heat of panic. It was pitch black underwater. She kicked her legs frantically, scrambling to the surface, her lungs screaming for air. When she finally broke free, the sky had darkened, punctuated only by the pale light of the moon that shimmered like a ghost over the flowing river. Katie coughed and spluttered, her eyes falling on the stranger a few feet away. They managed to surface, too, water streaming off their clothes. The ripple of their movements cast ominous shapes against the darkness. "We need to keep moving," the stranger shouted, urgency propelling their voice over the din of rushing water. Katie nodded, still gasping for breath as they both clambered ashore. The ground felt solid beneath her feet, but the moment brought no relief. The unseen men were surely out there close. They heard the splash, she was sure of it. What now? Katie asked, scanning the dark bank of the river for any sign of danger. "Follow me." The stranger took off into the thick clusters of trees bordering the river's banks, pulling Katie along. The enveloping shadows seemed alive, whispering secrets as they darted away from the water's edge. The woods felt suffocating, branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. Every rustle made her stomach fall. It was unnaturally quiet, filled only with the pounding of their hearts. Katie's mind raced. Would they ever be safe? What had this stranger gotten her into? they stopped in a small clearing when the stranger's breath came out in heavy bursts. "Here," they said, crouching down behind a fallen log, gesturing for Katie to do the same. Katie followed suit, heart still drumming, listening intensely. They couldn't hide forever. She turned to the stranger, questions bubbling to the surface. "Why do they want me? What do they know?" A shadow passed across the stranger's face, exposing something deeper beneath their surface of fear that only mirrored Katie's. "If they knew who you were, they would do anything to find you." Before Katie could press further, muffled voices broke through the stillness, a sinister chorus searching the woods. "They'll check the river next." The stranger's words fell like icy stones, their eyes darting as they peered through the brush. A knot formed in Katie's throat. "But I don't even understand what is happening." "Why me?" Panic flooded her voice. "They believe you're something you're not," the stranger replied, voice barely above a whisper. "Something powerful, like a key to something big. That's why they want to stop." Katie's heart twisted. A key? To what? The questions felt endless, woven tightly with an anxiety she couldn't shake. The timber of the forest felt heavy with secrets, burdening her with the weight of fate. The shouts grew closer, echoing among the trees. "We need to find a place to hide," the stranger said, urgency cracking through their calm. "If they get a hold of you," their words trailed off, but the implication was clear. Without hesitation, they broke from their makeshift cover and plunged deeper into the forest. Katie followed, fear driving her forward, her mind racing with dark possibilities. What kind of power could she possess? And would she ever get answers? But there was something else lurking within the brush, an unseen force waiting to be unleashed. A branch snapped, sending a jolt of terror through her. "Did you hear that?" Katie whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "Yes." "Move," the stranger urged. And just like that, they broke into a sprint, the chase escalating. They needed to find shelter, a sanctuary from the relentless danger that trailed them. But in the depths of the woods, what shadows awaited them? Would they find refuge or a deeper understanding of the peril surrounding them? As darkness wrapped around them, a chilling question loomed larger than their flight. What if the answer lay buried in Katie's own past? Branches clawed at Katie's skin as she sprinted through the thicket, each footfall a desperate prayer echoing into the night. Panic clawed at her throat, mingling with the cold bite of the air. She could barely keep pace with the stranger, who navigated the darkness with unnerving precision, urgency driving every hasty movement. They rounded a thick tree trunk, and there, in the eerie silence, she could only hear the terrible whispers of restless leaves. The shouts from behind were getting nearer. "Please," Katie gasped, breathless. "Where are we going?" The stranger paused for just a moment. "There's a cabin just ahead. We can hide there." Their voice was ragged, but determination shone through. The stranger took off again, darting deeper into the shadows. Katie followed, her heart pounding hard enough to burst. The underbrush crackled underfoot, each snap and crunch sounding like thunder. What if they saw her? What if they figured out who she was? No matter how fast she ran, the anxiety held her like a tight vice. She felt it in her bones, a creeping dread that traced its way up her spine. Finally, they reached a clearing. Before them stood the outline of a dilapidated cabin, silhouetted against the shimmering stars. It looked ancient, the wooden beams splintered and darkened by years of neglect. "Get inside," the stranger hissed, pushing her gently but firmly toward the door. With a trembling hand, Katie pushed the door inward and it creaked open, revealing a dust-choked interior. Cobwebs hung in the corners like ghostly drapes, and the air felt stagnant, thick with the scent of rot. She stepped inside, clenching her fists as she hoped for safety. The stranger followed and shut the door behind them, sealing away the night outside. "Stay close," the stranger said, moving silently around the dimly lit room. They felt their way to a window, peering outside into the darkness. "We need to lay low." Silence. Katie nodded, her heart hammering as they both dropped to the floor, finding shelter behind a rickety old table. The cool wood pressed against her skin, grounding her in the chaos. What do they want? Katie whispered, the fear making her voice shaky. What key? What could I possibly hold? I'm just me. The stranger's gaze turned grim. It's not just about you. It's what you're tied to, it's bigger than either of us. There are forces at play that would do anything to tap into it. Katie wanted to scream, to demand more answers, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she forced herself to breathe, feeling the weight of their situation pressing heavily down on her. From outside, muffled voices neared the cabin. Katie's pulse quickened, and she froze, wide-eyed, hoping to blend into the shadows. Keep your head down, the stranger urged softly, tension rippling through their body. They watched helplessly through the grimy windowpane, feeling like trapped animals under the sharp eyes of predators. The men moved closer, their silhouettes stark against the moonlight. With every word spoken, Katie felt the crushing reality of her situation, a chasm of unknown terror yawning wide before her. I can't die here, Katie thought, her heart thrumming with desperation. Not like this. The voices grew louder, crashing through the fragile barrier of silence that surrounded them. The men began circling the cabin, their movements possessing a predatory grace. Cover your mouth, the stranger urged, blood draining from their face. They shifted nervously, every fiber of their being on high alert. Flashes of light darted through cracks in the walls, heavy beams from flashlights scouring for any sign of movement. They're searching. We need to get out of here. But before they could make a plan, a heavy thud echoed outside. Katie's breath caught in her throat. Did you hear that? She whispered. Yeah, the stranger replied, their voice trembling. That a crash came next, splintering the cabin door wide open. Terror flooded Katie's senses, and she clutched the edge of the table. Would this be the end? Would the shadows consume everything once and for all? In the frantic chaos, a single thought pierced through the panic: what if she really was the key? But to what? As footsteps thundered into the cabin, Katie's world shattered. A figure stepped into the doorway, and everything she'd ever known hung in the balance, suspended, waiting to crash down. The chase had just begun, but could Katie uncover the truth before it was too late? The figure that emerged from the broken door was tall, shrouded in a dark coat that billowed softly around him. Light from the outside spilled into the cabin, framing his face in an almost ghostly glow. Katie's heart raced, thundering in her chest like a war drum, drowning out her thoughts. Keep still, the stranger next to her murmured, pulling her further behind the table. They were both frozen, muscles tense and strained, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. What do you want? The man outside shouted, voice rough and commanding. He stepped inside, the wooden floor creaking beneath his weight as he scanned the room with piercing eyes. Search everywhere, a second voice called from the darkness outside, blending with the moonlight that flickered across the cabin. Katie felt her breath quickening, panic spiking in her chest. She could hear the whisper of the stranger beside her, the urgency in their voice. Look for a way out. There has to be another door. In her mind, Katie searched for the truth. Who was this man standing before her? Why was he looking for her? And why did she feel an icy grip around her throat as she watched the shadow of danger loom near? Please, she thought desperately. I can't die here, not like this. A loud crash echoed from outside, the sound of something heavy hitting the ground. Followed by more shouts. We know you're in there. Come out and give us what we want. Katie glanced at the stranger beside her, their eyes wide with fear. There was no telling how many were out there. The tension in the air was palpable, thick as the dust in the corners of the cabin. The men outside scoured every inch of the porch, shifting over to the window, scanning the insides of the shadowy room. Was it only a matter of time until they found her? With a trembling hand, Katie clutched her companion's arm, whispering through clenched teeth, what do we do? On the count of 3, we move back to that cupboard behind the table. It might be a tight squeeze, but it could be our only chance. Her heart raced, listening to the chaos outside, counting along with the stranger. 1, it was now or never. 2, adrenaline coursed through her veins. 3, they leaped from behind the table and bolted toward the cupboard. Katie's thoughts spiraled. Would they make it? She dove low, snapping the door shut just as beams of light pierced through the room again. Silence fell as she squeezed into the darkness, her body pressed tight against the cool wood, heart pounding in her ears. They crouched there, breaths shallow as they heard footsteps enter the cabin. This is a waste of time. She can't hide forever, one muttered, frustration seeping into his voice. I saw her run in here. She's close. Don't you dare let her slip away. Katie's throat tightened. These men were relentless, driven by some dark purpose she couldn't fathom. The sound of metal glinting sent chills down her spine. Were they armed? Can you hear them? She whispered to her companion, the weight of her fear nearly suffocating. They're hunting for something or someone, they murmured, their voice barely a breath. We need to stay quiet. If they find us here. A sudden crash erupted from outside, the rest of Katie's world muted for a fleeting moment, and she felt a flicker of hope ignite. Maybe they would slip away. Maybe this was all some terrible mistake, but before she could finish the thought, the door slammed open again. Laughter rang out, jarring and cold, mocking her dread. You think she'll stay hidden? Katie held her breath as the men began to search again. Then came the moment, something tickling at the edges of her memory. The feeling that she had known all along, that something larger was at play here. It was that faded photo clutched in her hand when she was running, the strange symbol etched across it, the key to her past. What had she stumbled into? Then, a voice broke through the noise. Yeah, let us check the old cupboard. Kneeling in darkness, adrenaline surged. Time was running out. She felt the stranger's arm brush against hers, offering an unspoken reassurance. With a sharp intake of breath, they prepared to fight their way through the unknown, to uncover not only the truth but the secret that was threatening to consume her. What lay ahead could seal her fate or set her free. What if the truth was darker than she had ever imagined? As they gripped each other tightly, Katie couldn't shake the feeling that the most terrifying elements of her life were yet to reveal themselves. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around Katie like a thick fog, smothering her in uncertainty. She barely breathed, afraid that any sound could give them away. The footsteps drew closer, her heart pounded in a frantic rhythm. Check the cupboard, one of the men in the cabin said, his voice dripping with menace. A heartbeat passed. Then another. The silent tension was pierced by the metallic click of a flashlight beam flicking on. The bright light slashed through the gloom. For a split second, it illuminated the stranger beside her, their pale face, tight with fear. Katie silently urged them to stay still. If they could just remain undetected, it could buy them time. Come on. She's in here, I can feel it. The impatience in the man's voice was palpable. Heavy feet shuffled closer. The flashlight beam danced near their hiding place. Katie's breath caught in her throat. Sweat dripped down the side of her face as time froze. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing desperately the moment would pass without discovery. Where are you, girl? The man taunted, a twisted smile in his voice. The knife edge of fear pierced her heart. He was enjoying this, relishing the hunt. The metallic crash rang out again, something outside, like a door being flung open. Keep searching. We don't have all night. Another voice chimed in, sounding irritated. Do you think she has the symbol on her? Of course. It's what we're after. Those words were a jolt to Katie's mind. The errant photo flashed back in her memory again, the cryptic symbol, her last connection to a past shrouded in shadows. The very thing that tied her to this danger. She's just a girl. One of the men argued, leaning against the wall with a scoff. She's not worth this trouble. Katie bit her lip, the taste of blood sharp and metallic. She had to fight, not only for her life but for the secret she barely understood. Just as the man loomed over their hiding place, the stranger next to her shifted, trying to peer through a crack in the cupboard. Katie felt a rush of panic. What are you doing? She hissed, barely containing her voice. I need to see. They were trembling, fear radiating off them like heat. If there's a way out. In that moment, realization dawned on her. There was no escaping the hunters without uncovering the truth first. I can't let them find me, not without knowing why. Katie pressed a hand firmly against her chest, grounding herself in a sea of dread. Suddenly, the harsh beam of light zeroed in on their hiding spot, catching a glimmer their fear exposed. Gotcha! The man crowed, grinning like a predator about to ensnare its prey. They flung the cupboard door open. Katie's heart sank. She lunged for the stranger, but there was nowhere to go. They were trapped, and the weight of despair pressed heavily on her shoulders. Please, she whispered, tears stinging her eyes. We can't let them take us. Don't fight. They pleaded back, eyes wide and glistening. We have to play along. Before she knew it, the stranger was yanked out of the cupboard, flailing against the grip of the man. Let us go. Katie screamed, adrenaline fueling her feet. She surged forward, throwing herself into the chaos. Stop, or I'll, the man warned, but she didn't halt. The power of desperation pushed her to fight against the dark hand that closed around them. Grab her. Came another voice. Moments stretched into eternity as she felt hands at her shoulders, pulling her away. In that instant, a sudden boom echoed throughout the cabin, deep and jarring. The ground shook. It felt like victory and doom collided in a single moment. What had happened? Before she could turn back, she heard a voice, calm and low, crushing the din of the chaos. This is our last chance, Katie. We can't let them win. Stunned, she realized it was the stranger. But what does that mean? They looked deep into her eyes, urgency shining through their fears. We know more than we've let on, and it's time to fight back. In her gut, Katie felt a spark ignite. They had come this far. Could they actually unravel the mystery together? Or was this impending confrontation about to determine their fate once and for all? The moment was theirs to seize, and the shadows outside whispered of what lay ahead. The sound of chaos hung heavy in the air as Katie's mind raced. The shouts outside the cabin echoed like thunder, mixing with the pounding of her heart. She turned sharply to the stranger beside her, confusion and determination swirling within her. What do we do? We fight, they said, voice steady despite the turmoil surrounding them. But not how they expect. The throbbing noise outside continued, men moving, searching, voices growing impatient. Katie felt the familiar grip of fear tighten around her, but this time there was something else, a flicker of strength. Show me, she demanded, drawing on courage she didn't know she had. The stranger nodded, eyes narrowing with resolve. We'll use the element of surprise. Just then, another boom reverberated through the cabin, a blown door, slamming with sudden violence. The men were about to find them. We need a plan, and we need it fast, Katie urged. She could practically feel their breath on her skin, the way it seemed to coil around her like a python squeezing tighter. I'll create a distraction, the stranger said, glancing toward a broken window near the back, its glass scattered like fallen stars. You slip out and hide on the other side of the cabin. When I make my move, you'll have a chance to break in from behind. Katie nodded, determination spilling into her veins. Just be careful. The urgency of the moment pressed against her chest, squeezing tighter. The stranger took a breath, steadying themselves. Before she could process it further, they were gone, slipping into the shadows, fading toward the window. Katie held her breath, listening intently as the stranger began to clatter around, creating noise, a deliberate ruckus designed to draw all eyes away from her. Hey, over here! She heard them shout, just a flicker of desperation mixed into their tone. Instantly, a rush of footsteps flooded in that direction. Get her! One of the men yelled while moving toward the noise. Katie took that moment to dash forward, stomach churning as she made it to the back of the cabin. Her heart thundered in her chest, but grabbing the splintered ledge of the window frame, she climbed out into the night. The air rushed against her, the smell of wet leaves filling her lungs. She dropped to the ground, heart hammering in her ears as she crouched low, listening to the frantic commotion unfolding within. You're not getting away, screeched one man as another yelled orders she couldn't decipher. Drawing on her instincts, she circled the cabin, cautious and quiet, her heartbeat like a war drum. She peeked inside, straining to see through the broken glass, watching all chaos from her small haven. Then, she spotted the stranger. They were grappling with the man from before, resisting an overwhelming onslaught. The tension twisted in Katie's gut. She couldn't let this end. Suddenly, she spotted the metal glint of something on the table, a hefty wrench, perhaps their only hope. Summoning all her courage, Katie made a break for the door, lunging inside just as the men wrestled to regain control. "Hey!" she shouted, voice steadier than she felt. The men froze, turning toward her disbelief. But in that fleeting moment of shock, it was enough. Katie launched herself toward the wrench, grabbing it with both hands as she swung hard, striking the nearest figure across the back of the head. "Run!" Katie yelled, adrenaline surging, and the stranger wasted no time. The two of them pushed toward the rear of the cabin, bursting out as chaos erupted behind them. Together, they dashed into the wilderness, the woods opening wide before them like a beast ready to swallow them whole. Katie felt the weight of shadows chase them, breathing heavily as branches clawed at their skin. Every sound echoed louder, feet crunching in the underbrush, the echo of men following them like a dark tide. "Which way?" Katie gasped, propelled toward survival, anger boiling within her. "The river," the stranger shouted, pointing ahead. "We can lose them in the water." As they approached the bank, the sound of rushing water greeted them like old friends. They sprinted, adrenaline coursing, as desperate laughter bubbled up from within Katie. "You trust me now?" the stranger asked, casting a glance. "I have to," Katie replied. "We've come this far." As they reached the edge, she could feel the momentum building. With one last push, they jumped into the freezing embrace of the river. The water broke around them, a baptism of hope. Submerged, Katie felt weightless. The current yanked at them, pulling them along with a fierce determination. Emerging from the depths, she sputtered while the stranger was close behind, both gasping for air. "Can you swim?" Katie called, urgency wrapping around her voice. "Yes," the stranger shouted back, but they were quickly swept under the current. Katie grabbed hold of their arm, her grip solid and fierce. They gained control, battling toward the riverbank, as frantic whispers faded into silence behind them. Climbing out, they crawled onto the shore, hearts racing and soaked to the bone. As the men's voices fell far behind, they finally paused, breathless and exhausted, leaning against the tree trunks for support. Did we make it?" Katie asked, heart still racing. The stranger turned and nodded, relief flooding their features. "For now. But we need to figure out how to stop this for good." Katie felt adrenaline slowly ebbing, replaced by something else, an understanding of the danger they faced and the urgency of unveiling the truth behind it all. "Then let us find out what it is." "I'm ready." They stood, side by side in the dark, knowing they couldn't escape what was waiting for them. Something powerful tied them together now, a shared burden soon to be understood. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," the stranger promised, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Together," Katie echoed, feeling like the weight of her bloodline shifted in that moment. The darkness was still out there, but so was the flicker of hope and the strength of newfound allies, waiting for the next chapter, and with that, they ventured deeper into the unknown, the shadows receding, just as light began to break through. And before you go, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It truly helps us out. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Spread the word. Your support means everything.